silver spears. One brother will not help his brother come up with a tagline.
Hi, well, why the fuck are you wearing that?
COVID-19.
Hi, welcome to the Motion Picture Notion. I'm your host, Gabriel Burton, and this is my brother, Colton Riggs.
This is our special quarantine episode.
This is just a trick of the lighting. We are actually 6 feet away from one another, so don't worry, we're all about safety here at the Motion Picture Notion. So we're here to talk about Phantasm II. And the reason why I want to do this with a brother, Colton, is because we have very different and yet similar views on the film. John Jeffrey is trapped in here with us.
The dudes are emerging.
So yeah, it was my least favorite because it was the most like commercial of all the Phantasm movies. But I respect the idea that it
was the most cohesively written, well produced, well acted.
Well, actually, I would say if you want to talk about being cohesive, I would say Ravager is actually probably, because it makes everything else make sense.
Yeah, but the only reason Ravager has to exist is because Don Coscarelli fucked everything else up. And don't get me wrong, most of the time, I dislike studio intervention. But like, I feel like when it was one of those, hey, we're going to drop $3 million, because it was $3 million budget for the
$3 million. And it was the most expensive of the whole series.
I feel like in most cases when a studio steps in and is like, we're going to give you this money, but in Don Coscarelli's case, he's not a very cohesive writer. I mean, he's not a terrible director, but his, it's like, to me, it's just one of those things where when he wrote the first Phantasm, it's just, he was like half asleep when he wrote it.
That's kind of what I liked about it.
Yes, like, and that works for the first film, but then it's like, if you're going to like, hey, we're going to make a franchise out of this, it's like you should kind of go in a certain direction, which is why the third one pisses me off so much, because the second one suddenly like, oh, this is the direction that it's heading in. And then Don Coscarelli was like, oh, we're back to an independent production. Well, fuck the plot of the second one.
Well, to be fair, the budget was extremely reduced. I mean, he had bigger plans for it, but Phantasm II, because it was kind of a cult following after the original, it was a weird kind of, like, not very mainstream movie, so, like, the fact that he upped the stakes, there wasn't really much of an audience for it, so it didn't do well in theaters, so the budget for Phantasm III got severely diminished. And I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks. It's clear that he was
I'm not even talking about the budget, though. Like, it's just the fact that, because the fact of the matter is he could have continued this story with a lower budget. He just chose not to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, he would have had to pay an extra cast member, But, I mean, when you think about it, because he sacked James LaGrosse and brought back A. Michael Baldwin, which personally is one of the things that I like better about the other Phantasm movies, because James LaGrosse, and we both agree, James LaGrosse was a good, like, lead man. He was arguably the most badass Mike, but there's two different forms of badass Mike. There's James LaGrosse badass Mike with the flamethrower, and then there's, like, Mike with the frickin' screwball in his head, like, making rocks fall on Killer Midget Monk's Mike, which is a little bit more weird. It's a little bit more Phantasm.
And then they took his ball out of his head, and he just became damsel in distress Mike.
I will agree with you there. And even A. Michael Baldwin said on one of the documentaries that in Phantasm III, he's pretty much just relegated to being like,
help me, help me.
But the thing is, like,
I'm gonna try to Judas Iscariot myself.
A little bit weirder, as is Don Coscarelli, because your favorite Phantasm movie is Phantasm II.
Yeah.
My favorite is the first one. So for you, the second one is like your model for the series, and for me,
which is the black sheep of the series. I mean, I'll be completely honest.
What is?
The second one.
I don't think so.
Absolutely, because it doesn't, like, the other ones have that sort of kind of weird, non-cognitive shit in relation to each other, whereas the second one, it's kind of one of those, like, okay, this is where we're going, this is where we're headed. It's like, doom, 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 doom. It's a pretty linear series of events, whereas with the other ones, it's more like, you find yourself sometimes like, what the what's going on here?
I've watched in a lot of forums. A lot of people, it's either the first or the second one that's their like model. My favorite of the sequels was Oblivion because it's the most weird. Yeah, I know, like the first one. But the other thing about Phantasm II is the absence of Bill Thornberry. it was really just like that was it. It was really missing like two major cast members. And I would even be prepared to say, Jeffrey, be careful. I would even be prepared to say that Phantasm 2 is a better, well, I mean, really, it's just a fact. Phantasm 2 is a better movie than Phantasm 3, but I still prefer Phantasm 3 because it feels a little bit more like.
And there were entertaining parts of Phantasm 3.
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, dude, not for nothing, man. They went for the camp in that one with Rocky and stuff. But I was like, I could totally respect anybody who their favorite movie was Phantasm 2, but I just think that like it was too commercial. I mean, because you're not like a terrible Don Coscarelli fan, are you? It's like weird and kind of disjointed, and sometimes
not
doesn't
even
make sense.
that. I just think that, like, to me, Don Coscarelli and like Brian De Palma are on the same level. They have a certain amount of like about them, but they've only ever each directed a handful of good movies, and it's one of those things. They're not the fucking worst directors in the world, but it's one of those things where, again, it's just like Don Coscarelli to me seems like he has, and again, it's just kind of like from just watching his interviews. You've met him, I haven't, but he seems much like Brian De Palma, kind of to have given into the like, I am, you know, Don Coscarelli, and whatever. I mean, you could be happy with your fan base, but Goof and Toop. He wants to be interviewed too.
He struck me as like kind of like a big kid. He was like really excited about everything. I mean, like when I had him sign my poster, he was like so enthused. He was going through a list himself. He saw that everybody else had written a quote, and he was like, shoot to kill. Warning shots are bullshit. He's like, we'll lay that tall dude out flat and drive a stake right through his goddamn heart. And he's like, that's a little long, but you know, like he.
I mean, I could see that too, but again, that would account
like
for
ADD.
the disjointed nature of his films.
He struck me as somebody who might have ADD, possibly.
You should have been born a millennial, Don. They
Nah.
would have fixed you.
Nah, the movie wouldn't have been the same.
No,
the movie wouldn't have been the same.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, I did too. I don't not like it. I don't not like any Phantasm movie, but
I only dislike one Phantasm movie.
Which one?
Oblivion. It's a fucking piece of shit. That was like,
funny.
we've only got the money to make 30 minutes worth of film, so we're just going to go back and remaster all the old bullshit footage that I never used. Because what was the original kind of Phantasm? Like 2.5 hours long or something?
It was like 3 hours
Yeah,
long, dude.
yeah. So he basically just took all that bullshit footage, had the budget for half a film, we'll say 45 minutes, and was like, let's just pad it out with other shit and exploitation.
I'll give him a solid hour, but he did.
But it's like a lot of it's
all shit we hadn't
exposition.
seen before.
I know, but it was lazy. It was exposition. To me, it was fucking
low budget, man. I mean, like it was the lowest budget ever. Even the
Yeah,
cast,
but-
dude, it was a tiny
no,
cast.
but I get that. But to me, again, it's like, I'm not saying that this is on the same level, but it's almost like the same shit they pulled on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Where, you know, garbage day. It's like, it's literally, that one's even worse though, in all God's honesty. I think that's actually between 30 and 45 minutes worth of original footage.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is just the main character from the second one narrating reruns of the previous film. And it's like, bro.
Stuckman just recently did a review on that.
Yeah,
and that was one of the things he commented on.
I just don't like that. I think that's cheating the audience. That's like, there's there was the Iron Man knockoff that they did that was part of that B movie universe. It was like Iron Warrior or some crap like that, and Reggie Bannister was the scientist that creates the technology in that one.
I've seen that.
Yeah, there's certain comic books from like the Silver Age and the Golden Age that are in public domain. So when the Avengers got big, this B movie company was like, we're going to find out all the public domain superheroes, and we're going to make our own bootleg universe. So
Was that part of where the Jeffrey Combs was doing the Doctor Strange ripoff?
No, that was years before. Dr. Mordred, Master of the Unknown. That was like 15 years before. No, 20, almost 20 years before that. And that was actually supposed to be Doctor Strange, according to Charles Band, but they pulled the licensing, so they had to rewrite everything.
I'm kicking myself right now because it just occurred to me. You know what I should have asked Don Coscarelli? Where would you have gone with the Phantasm line? Like going with the Phantasm 2 line. Like, because he did set up this whole thing with that chick, with Elizabeth, right? Like, where was he planning to go with that?
Yo, Don, Where are we gonna go with it?
Yeah, Don.
Hit us back.
Don.
Motion picture notion. And if
He
you-
frequently likes comments under Instagram, so maybe if I ask a question, he'll get back to me. He always seems excited to talk about Phantasm. So,
and if you don't, I'm gonna cough in an envelope and I'm gonna send it to you.
me too. That's about it, right?
Hmm.
Alright. Well, anyways, Phantasm 2, we both liked it. It just so happens to be his favorite, just so happens to be my least favorite. And yeah, stay safe, wash your hands,
Back out into the COVID.
back out into the COVID,
Stay greasy, people.
stay greasy. And that's all she wrote.